Bayesa bangena ngengoma yesa naba beklensa bona bayacela abantwana bona bayacela imitshato Bayasa, ashuta, bona bayatela. bayathanda bayasisonda amandla bacela umhlaba bacela ukhanya vumani bo anginizwa vumani basivile abaphathi baphendulile abaphathi baphendulile omakukhanye oh.
Another round of applause for Iphupho Ligabiko. Just checking, can everyone hear me at the back? First of all, His Excellency, former President Kgalema Motlanthe, and our distinguished to the very serious leadership in this room, the students. Welcome to the 2020 Deanery of Student Affairs. So thank you very much for putting this event together. A highly engaging platform where you're not just going to listen, but you're also going to speak. You will offer to this discussion, and we will both leadership should look like as our country transitions with the globe, in fact. 2024 politically, not just for us, but for 24 countries, 24 major economies in the to the election, I think in 30 days. And so it's a big year for discourse, and specifically discourse about a courageous, a visionary, and an ethical leader. Okay, sound team, are we good? There we go. I'll tell you more about a live broadcast that is happening. But for now, my name is Busi Mkhumbuzi Powe, and I'm extremely privileged to stand before you in this space where we will discuss issues of leadership, issues of integrity, issues of adaptability. We all know that this country faced a drastic political leadership change with the advent of the GNU. What does that mean for us? What does this moment call on? Wits Student Deanery certainly thinks that it calls on leaders who are able to navigate volatility, who are able to navigate uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. So this conference, like I said, is not just a talk shop. We're going to move beyond academic discourse. What we want to achieve by the end of the 2 days is that we want to prepare you, the emerging leaders of our country and beyond, to figure out how you navigate these challenges, but importantly, how you navigate them with the values of integrity and with the values of innovation. So we have an incredible lineup. We've got speakers who represent all sectors of society, from private sector to public sector. We've got civil society, we've got academia, and we even have you, students, who will speak from this podium and address us, give us a call to action for a new vision. And all of this is being done, like I said, to really inspire and empower you to redefine ethical leadership in our country. Importantly, today's topic is going to delve into leading with integrity in an era of populist politics and mass accumulation. No doubt our keynote speaker is very well placed to speak on this topic, but before we get ahead of ourselves, a few housekeeping items. If there is an emergency, please, students, stay seated, and someone will come on indicate to you where our emergency exits are. Secondly, please put your phones on silent. Put your phone on silent. Also, please avoid using your phone, unless, of course, you're tweeting or putting this event on TikTok. Wits Student Leadership Conference, please make sure you share this event with your world, your friends, your family. Podcast that's going to be going live right now on the Wits YouTube channel. So maybe not with much to do, let them know that they can go on the Wits YouTube channel and they can live stream this event. Who knows, they might see you in the audience, hopefully asking a sincere question. Without further ado, the conference is officially open. Please help me welcome Professor Garth Stevens, who is Deputy Vice Chancellor of People, Development and Culture at Wits University. He's here to set the tone for this important gathering. Prof. Stevens, please join us on stage.
Thank you, Program Director, for the kind introduction and warm greetings to all of you this evening. Your Excellency, former President Kgalema Motlanthe, members of the National Assembly who will be joining us if they are not here, dignitaries, society, the development sector, and the public sector, our Dean of Student Affairs, Mr. Jerome September, the Deputy Dean of Students, Mr. Tsegofatso Mokhaladi, the Head of the Wits Business School, Professor Maurice Khadebe, SRC President, Ms. Bukisa Boniswa, members of the outgoing SRC and incoming SRC, student leaders, students, all protocol observed. Indeed, to all of those who are joining us online as well, a very, very warm Wits welcome to you this Friday evening. It's always great to see so many young people in a venue like the Great Hall. There's a party going on here and a party going on there, and I'm sure that there are many, many things that you would be doing this evening. But I think it's testament to this inaugural Student Leadership Conference on behalf of its Student Affairs and the Center for Student Development. This generation of leaders whom we will look towards to resolve the many challenges. Let me just say, by the 1960s, we had heard this term polycrisis being coined, that characterize this particular historical moment, this juncture. Sustainability, inequality, economic growth, war, instability, and the many, many broad failures facing the many humanitarian catastrophes across the world today. Now more than ever, the world requires a new layer, a new type of leadership. Servant leaders that are attuned to the fractures that plague our societies, who are skilled, but who are also decisive in strategy and strategy execution, who are collaborative, who are empathic, who are humble, authentic, and humane in their approach. It's a critical moment where we have to lead from the front. We have to set institutional and nurtures high-performance teams, succession pipelines in the context of our program directors already so eloquently indicated. But it also requires possibilities, potential, and inspire hope through action and outcomes. In its more than 100 years of existence, when I say charges, of course, I'm talking about all of you, right? We've had better success, sometimes lesser success. But once again, the University of the Witwatersrand's 10-year strategy scholars to developing academics, to developing researchers, practitioners to that. Far too often, we hear in social circles how people bemoan the challenges of the world, but they're reluctant to take leadership. Leadership is deflected, devolved. We shy away from leadership. This is becoming habituated today. And we all know that bad habits are different. While forms of cooperative leadership are important, we cannot distribute the leadership to the point where nobody takes responsibility. Yeah? And so, if we are to build an active and an advanced citizen, we have to step up and lead. Or we will be led by those who are ill-equipped to lead us. Yeah? We do not lead only for ourselves, we lead for generations to come after us. And for futures that are being said. Of course, I'm really thrilled to be here, to welcome and introduce. I mean, it's nice to be with all of you, but to sit next to the president of a country is something else. So I'm really thrilled. I haven't yet introduced him. Huh? I've got a way to go. Former President Kgalema Motlanthe is a South African politician, activist, and former president known for his dedication to public service and social justice. Born in 1949 in Alexandra, he began a struggle through the African National Congress and Umkhonto we Sizwe of the National Union of Mine Workers, where he worked to advance workers' rights and industrial democracy. He later served as deputy president from 2009, particularly women, to extending South Africa's legacy of peaceful transition to democracy to other nations. Recognized for his contribution and human rights, his influence remains strong, not only in South Africa, but advocates for the policies that promote equality and human dignity. His legacy is public service. Through his work in politics, civil society, and conflict mediation, he continues to inspire future generations, as he will with you this evening, and remains a respected figure in South Africa's political landscape and beyond. His ongoing efforts reflect his vision of a society where all citizens can live with dignity and opportunity. Former President, may I now invite you to deliver your keynote address.
Thank you very much. People Development and let me also acknowledge Jerome September, Dean of Student Affairs, Professor Maurice Radebe, Head of Wits Business School, Dean of Student Affairs, Bukisa Boniswa, President of the Student Representative Council, executive members of the Postgraduate Association, leaders of various structures of students' governance, as well as our program director, Busisiwe Mkhumbuzi Owe. Prof, thank you very much for your warm words of welcome. I've had the dubious honor on other occasions of listening to my obituary being read in eternal peace. So thank you for. I thank the University of Witwatersrand for inviting and offering me the honor to address populist politics and mass accumulation. In a world where every facet of life seems to compete for our attention, ever before. Leadership in the digital age is increasing, such as South Africa, where historical injustice struggles converge. With such complex socio-compelling landscape to explore and examine leadership models, styles, and entrepreneurial, academia, or civil society, a broad range of examples and possibilities, a more robust framework. Curiosity ignites a powerful response, but it is the questions we pose to ourselves and the subject matter that truly drive our desire to know more and strive for better. This inquisitive spirit is crucial for future leaders from oppressive knowledge systems. And I want on the theory of knowledge by working out ideas arising of problems of practice and with fulfillment or non-fulfillment of our expectations in practice, then to new extensions of knowledge. Moreover, existing knowledge must always be brought into conformity with the lessons. How expansive our knowledge base of principles developed is verified by experience. Usman's 8 principles, yet still germane, may be applied to any doable starting point for future leaders. They emphasize empathy, accountability, transparency, stability, visionary thinking, communication, and integrity. Chosen paths as young leaders, you develop the control of specificity to suit your individual fields of interest. Fight constantly and consistently in order to contribute to the kind of world we want to live in. It is for this reason is so significant, because leading with integrity is not merely an aspiration. South Africa reimagined. To tackle the layered theme, politics and mass accumulation, we will unpack the subject matter contextually, that education is a critical tool keeping humanity with intellectual, scientific, and creative means. We look to education for the improvement of the human condition. And beyond, will make notable differences in the world of poverty, disease, unemployment, and inequality. Gone. Ahead of you is a long winding list of opportunity that invites you to share your integrity, knowledge, and experience with those around you, contributing to the success of your community. Thank your parents, families, and sponsors for having sacrificed so much to get you here. Be upright, walk tall, work hard, and be incorruptible in your ideas as well as in your conduct. Equal and corruption of ethics. Whatever organizations and institutions you will be attached to, you will be enhancing the integrity and reputation of those entities, as well as your will contribute to their success and inspire others to follow in your footsteps. Remember, the true measure of your achievements lie in acknowledging that personal gain is also found in the positive impact you create on those around you. As we consider the present politics, socioeconomics, and human rights, it is ever clear that the creating a tangle of time that resists the need. Much to be done as the baton is passed to a generation of leaders from all sectors who are continuing the work of creating truly democratic societies of various faculties. You will eventually government departments, civic organizations, religious institutions, your alma mater, and transnational companies of various sizes. What connects each of these is your ability to adapt sector by sector, situation by situation. However, adaptation can be a double-edged sword. While it may foster resilience and innovation, it can also lead to the normalization of negative behaviors if one becomes too accepting of unhealthy practices. Therefore, it is crucial to remain aware of the direction in which you are adapting, whether towards virtuous principles you choose to live by. As leaders today, in your own right, personal and political spheres intersect and converge. Choices you will be asked to make daily will ask questions of your personal belief and resolve of the principles you stand for. Leadership is the wisdom to achieve results through others for the benefit of all. In other words, the wisdom you develop creates a scaffold for how you as students and leaders wish to buttress your ethics. The rest of the world is also forced to buttress against a polycrisis of ineffective governance. Effective in contemporary South Africa, they must be applied in a way. For instance, transparency does not just mean making information available, but ensuring that information is communicated in ways that are accessible to the public. Similarly, adaptability matched with policy reforms that reduce corruption in the form of maladministration. Fraud and corruption significantly undermine the rule of law by eroding trust in public institutions, weakening legal systems where laws are not consistently enforced. For instance, as public officials, behold, corrupt conduct occurs when a public official uses or attempts to use that. Corrupt conduct can also occur public influences or attempts to influence a public official to use the benefit of the public. In Usman's principles, the concept of empathy and integrity, however, is a manifestation of consciousness. What is right and what is wrong, or in terms, the ability to connect what you to the possible consequences. So, once consciousness fails, consciousness leaves you, it does not bid you farewell. In other words, people are often not even aware that they have lost their ability to connect their pronouncements and actions thereof. Consciousness has to be constantly cultivated, nurtured, and refined in order to inculcate ethical leadership and integrity. Ethics has been considered the bedrock. A society that values integrity, accountability, and transparency is less likely to tolerate corrupt practices. Promoting ethical conduct starts with awareness, education, and it involves instilling values of honesty and responsibility at a young age, at home, and in the classroom. By force of example, ethical leadership in particular sets department or institution. This too extends to the corporate sector, where ethical decision-making is tested against the bottom line, must always balance profit motives with social responsibility and ecological conflict and environmental destruction. The world is in for not only policy reform, but an economic pathway that moves long-term values within a system that upholds sustainable outcomes. Responsible and equitable human-centered practices that are also ecologically aware. That environmental, social, and governance, that is ESG, offers as an approach to doing this and economic crises. For corporate leaders, Usman's relationship with nature, how business leaders better manage the humanity in the years to come is the next piece in the puzzle of human development. People are allowed to participate in their own political, social, and economic development. Leadership requires cooperation and communication at its core, which make up part of civil society, give to are marginalized, exploited, oppressed, and left behind. A robust democracy relies to advocate on behalf of the marginalized. Civil, in order to withstand the moments where democratic and justice systems fail to protect the interests of the most vulnerable. That ethics and principles that inform your actions are unassailable, and stay true to these ambitious human ideals. Build and other forms of institutionalized access. And as I conclude, I want to and I quote, "Our teachers that when the social system fails to provide peace and happiness, that system is no more good and must therefore be changed. Even whatever has been conveyed today is itself, but always in motion and in a state of becoming."
between us where we really ask the questions that will move the needle forward. Between us where we really ask the questions that will move the needle forward. Former President, I will start because, I mean, you correctly said that leading with integrity is no longer an aspiration, but it is a necessity, which means that for students now, come this kind of gym where they practice these skills. And so it's not something they will do later, but it's something that they need to learn and practice now in the offices that they serve in. And see, to place party politics above the ethic of leadership, of integrity in office. And so how do you prioritize that over and above the parties they may be representing?
Thank you very much. On the surface, there appears to be a conflict in and being politically aware. There is no contradiction there. Simply because politics there's politics in the church, there's politics in the politics in sport, there's politics in student movements, there's politics. To say with the disclaimer that they are not political. That in itself is a profound political statement. And so it is important for students to conduct their activities and exercise their leadership with integrity, and still understand the politics of the university as an institution and the society in which the university is located. That is very important, because if you separate the university into an ivory tower, not connected to the polity and the society and communities that it serves, then of course, fair weather and every brother. In other words, in future, they will not know principles, give them unlocked wrong practices. Whereas, if you want me to do this, please give me the instruction in writing. No minister will give you that instruction.
We asked students to pose interesting questions to pose this evening. Names of those students who have sent through their questions, starting with Ritabi. And Ritabile, you will stand, and I've already introduced you, so go right into your question. Are we getting?
Program Director, for that introduction. My question to His Excellency is, a lack of vision for the future might be a contributing factor to why so many people do not act with integrity and do not value it. Yes.
Thank you.
Well, as are taught that every journey begins at the end. So you need to know where you are heading to. You leave home and start flagging down a taxi or getting into a bus or train, you already know where you are heading to. So vision means knowing where you are heading to. And then you can work out a road map to get there. So lack of vision on the part of any leadership means that chances are that that leadership follow whatever fences their, their minds, and not be systematic in what they do. That's to integrity. There are instances. Let me share this with you. In the 70s, 1970s, I know you are young. In the 1970s, so there are two old political activists in detention at John Foster Square. Promised the security police that he will. And as they are exercising, walking around, and I'm going to testify against you, he doesn't put it that way. He says to him, and so if these people ask me, whatever I do, I will tell. In that instance, it's actually working against the very cause which led to his arrest. And that's what happens when there's no integrity. Because integrity means uprightness, means loyalty. So you must be loyal to the cause, you must be loyal to the decisions you take. The student movement, if you take decisions, you must be loyal to those decisions. You review them. So there are many people who pay lip service. Now, if you pay lip service to any cause, you are as good as a dead weight to that cause. You will not help advance that cause at all.
A very good question to ask, and of course, succinctly, the answer is that every journey begins at the end. And so working back from the end, there's the question of how you apply integrity. But of course, even the question of adaptability, as we've heard, is not just straightforward. But there are questions to be asked, and there are very difficult decisions to be made. With that, I'd like to call upon the second student. His Excellency was a question. His name is Oscar Ngogozo. Where is Oscar? I don't see the, where? Oh, that same side. There we go. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, His Excellency and everyone in the room, all protocol. Political landscape in South Africa is changing and the struggle is being passed on to young people. How can vets and ourselves as student leaders prepare to lead South Africa?
Well, Oscar, the Amilcar Cabral stated many years ago in the 60s that every generation must define its historical mission. So we are at a point in this country today where the leadership, the baton passes on to the younger generation. Younger generation which did not live under apartheid, whose experience, lived experience is under a democratic dispensation. And so those of us who were subjected to discrimination, we value this democracy. But to a younger person, experience is a negative experience. Democracy becomes a hollow term. And so it is important for the younger generation, as they are sent to leadership positions, to also remember that we are incompetence. And therefore that once you are elected into a position, to understand the moment, sorry, and to understand of leadership, and all they do is, and they don't say a word. It's worse today with modern devices. So they get the success or failure of that committee is a function of their own about to, ascend to positions of leadership. You must and make sure that you add value to whatever committee that you serve in. Truly speaking, I mean, there is no advantage in coming at any issue from a position of ignorance, none at all. There's no advantage.
These platforms be challenged, but I think we are being asked to say, what are we giving and offering to these platforms? Why are they being challenged? Or is it Mabasa with the A? Are you in the room? Please raise your hand. There we go. And then again, please rise as you ask your question.
Good evening, everyone. I have two questions. Both go to advertise public sentiment over principle. How do you believe that one can balance the demands of political survival with leading with integrity? The second one is that, so as someone who knows people that have been arrested frequently, and if that compromises the integrity of one's leadership, since the order of the day has, for politicians, is populism, really behind political parties that are populist, are we maybe not in
To someone else. I think our question there, the first is asking about how political survival. I think, Excellency, you spoke, for instance, with the example that you provided, turning down, for instance, in corruption or something that may be wrong, in which case there is a question of political survival. And the question there, I suppose, is asking, well, how do you ensure that you continue to progress in your standing in a practical way on these principles? And the second question, I believe, is asking about itself. I think we speak about the populist, but what does it say about captured you, Ntletelo? Those were powerful questions.
Thank you very much. It is, of course, incumbent on all survive and engage in self-preservation endeavors. So, in political organizations, some principles, because they believe if they were to uphold those principles and stand firm on those principles, that would be career limiting, particularly in situations. If you take political, so administration, I mean public administration. So you'll have, as senior managers, the director general and so on. In other countries, the director general is called a permanent secretary. Permanent precisely because they are not appointed by the political principals. They are appointed by a body like what we have here, public commission. So, in a short-term contract, they are appointed on a permanent basis. The authority to appoint senior managers delegated to ministers. So what happens in practice? A minister who has a vacancy of a director general or deputy director general advertises that vacancy. And transparency begins and ends with the advert. Thereafter, no one knows what happens. But in truth, what actually happens is that the procedure is that the minister with the vacancy invites two colleagues, other ministers, two ministers, and perhaps a DG from a different department. And the four of them constitute themselves into an interviewing panel. And so that interview lacks transparency and it lacks rigor, because half the time the minister already know who they want to appoint. That's why when there's a reshuffle, so such a person gets appointed on a contract basis, and when there's a reshuffle of the political principals, the ministers, the new minister comes in from day one already wants to appoint his or her own director general. And you end up with a high turnover. Public administration. Therefore, destabilizing the state, because that public administration is a core of senior management level or even at the lower level to act in a principled manner all the time, because the principles are in sync and the Constitution of the Republic. Any other thing outside of that frame, and if you go along, you get compromised. Of course, you may, be elevated to a senior position simply because you are compliant. But that wrongful malfeasance will arise at some point and will come back to haunt you. So it is always important to remember that your history follows you or precedes you. If you are notoriously pliable, then of course that notoriety will you go. People will say, no, we remember him. We remember her. So that's very important to remember. Now, popular are clear and defined, and the populace know what they want. Say what the people already want. That's what populism means in simple terms, as to what the next step ought to be. And so, and how strong, is acquired through experience and over time. And such leaders say what you don't believe in, on the understanding that, for now, they reflect. They go home and they go through what you told them. And when they reflect, they say, but how can this leader say this to us and mean what you say? That way, there's no possibility of saying, no, I've been quoted out of context. So that's proper wrong. The people are never wrong. That's why, and so on. Thank you.
I feel a lot of rumbling and so I will allow one or two more questions. And I've already seen a hand here and a hand at the back. Unfortunately, I have to close it there, unfortunately. And They can see you, and then there's a right there at the back as well. Please be brief and tell us your name.
My name is Atlehang Todeti, or Bubbles, either or. I think my question is for both panelists. As former activist yourself, how do you feel about the current destabilization of student activism? As I feel like the institution has created a system whereby where one fights, they're silenced. So what's the thin line between integrity and me standing up and being a stiff biko? Thank you very much.
A great question, but before we answer that question, I'm just going to take the final hand.
Thank you very much to the panelists and His Excellency. My question has to do with it has to do with the SOEs, state-owned enterprises. So these countries, as we know, some people, particularly white people in South Africa, right, ending. So democratic dispensation, there's been voices from prominent people who are saying that state-owned enterprises must be privatized. So what is your view, Mr. President, on the privatization of state enterprises? Are they going to help the people? Thank you.
His Excellency, the question understood? Okay.
Of course, I can slide in an opinion. Okay. What they are because of their track record and their history. And you as students are here so that you acquire knowledge and minds are enriched through what you learn in an institution. Maybe such that you need to take up a stand. So if we speak of a glorious history of the institution, we are referring to how it evolved and developed motion. And that's changes that happened over time through struggles, oppressive conditions. You are not worth your soil, your salt. You must take a stand. What may not be permissible is if, of course, you ban the libraries, you see. That's not permissible. That's not the correct people who will come here after you. So that's important. We adapt, and our form. So that's your responsibility. As young people, you must bring the underpinnings of the institution if you want. Yes. That's my tuppence. Some of them are useful, others are not useful at all. So the stakes is that there are terms that are used interchangeably. So we speak of government. Governments come and go every 5 years. You go to election. Ability exists that you may end up with a different government. But the state is a permanent manner in which society organizes itself. It's permanent. So when you speak of that addresses the need, common need of the nation, and so on. Those are issues that such an entity addresses, the burning issues of which is a euphemism for electricity blackouts. So the management at the plant want a part is too running because of the delay. Because of the delays of supply of parts. They cannibalize the four that is not waiting. They cannibalize the four that is not waiting. And if they are run efficiently, there's no simple issue of that the private sector is most efficient. Sector is most efficient. Can bring the requisite capital, and then you have a win battle, and then you have a win-win situation. Realizing that reality says, look, accumulating is minuscule. Relative to the capital outside of China has always been, drooling everywhere. And he says to capital outside of China, come these enterprises are now public property. Yeah? Yeah? Million Chinese people out of poverty. From 1975. And how to deploy of the entire population. And that is why they've succeeded. Complete, they go back to China because the quality of life in China.
Professor
Extends on the earlier response. So if you look at your history, functions of education is in fact fundamentally about. It's about creating an enabling environment to disrupt your own worldviews in schools, that in universities, that in colleges, that in all sites of learning. But here's the kicker, because there is a caveat here. The real debate that we should be having each and every year with each and every generation is about the extent to which that disruption impacts on overall institutional continuity of disruption that can be tolerated within 100 years further. For your children, for your grandchildren, for the 1960s and changed in the 70s, social protest, and in fact, a different set of parameters which are considered to be acceptable, tolerable.
A student leader should rise to, because it's a question of testing what seemed like a microcosm of the broader South African political landscape level, how the landscape at Wits looked very similar to the landscape broadly. The vision that society has for a growing South Africa, a equitable South Africa, a just South Africa, what will be even more fruitful in day two. I would like us to please.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. For a graveyard shift tomorrow, where we might be able to have a more substantive conference at a standard, we'll have a challenging time meeting and exceeding next year. But really, for me to say that this that that we envision. So this idea of at the end point. For 2023 in the strategy, we commit ourselves impact on society through creating and advancing global knowledge, leaders with integrity. So that's, I guess the secret is out. That's where the theme comes from. And those of you, how we see Wits in 2033. And as we reflect over this weekend around leadership, it's really that this word integrity come from a Latin or complete. It's this idea of being completeness. And so a state of being complete. To this concept of living life or living by one's values and by one. We're gonna journey around this as you think about what it means to be what it means to be a new school council or faculty council, to be the International Student Sub-Council, what it means come into this with a complete this is about. So this event, of course, marked the launch of the Center for Student that team who have lots of conversation to help shape this, so that Hope Stevens, thank you for being here, for setting the tone, and for really getting the tone, and for really getting us going, and for also itself. It's just not secure because it's secure. It's because people are here. The sound, and over back to the program director. Thank you.
The best and biggest selfie possible. And as soon as that photo is done, we invite you. Program will kick off at 8:30. Please bring along your committee members and all of your friends who are joining you. As well. Thank you so much, His Excellency. Ipu Poligabiko, please take us away.